Okay, well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I need to do a very quick little video just going through the solutions to the diseases and defects worksheet that I gave you before the holidays and you submitted to me. So some people I have gotten back to, some I haven't. So this is for everybody really, so at least you can check your own sheet. So it was for diseases and defects. We had done the chapter and I had given you some short questions from the junior cert exam papers. So let's start working through them anyway straight away. So first question, it was question 6, but remember it was from a junior cert paper, hence why the numbers are a bit peculiar. But it basically says the board shown has become distorted across its width. And what is this distortion called? Now, you will have heard me talking about this anyway in class. Okay, distortion is something that we come across a lot. When I hand you out timber, some of you tell me, oh, my timber is curved or twisted, or there's other words you use for it, but you tell me basically that there's something wrong with it and I need to go back and replace it for you. Whereas the reality is you're going to get boards that are covered like this because we can only control the timber so much. But anyway, what is it called? It's called cupping. C-U-P-P-I-N-G. Now, remember, even while answering questions, even while doing these kind of worksheets, it's as much about the spelling and the understanding as it is about the actual theory, the knowledge. Okay, so because I'm answering questions, I'm going to add though a little bit of information to that because I'm well aware that we didn't do it a whole class on disease and defects. You did it yourselves. So I need to add a little bit of, I suppose, information to this here. The first thing I want you to highlight or understand or look at is that word distortion. Okay, so what is this distortion called? Something that is distorted is usually twisted or bent or moved in some way. Okay, so distortion. That's the first thing. The next thing then just supposed to write in, well, what does it mean? What does cupping actually mean? Well, it means that it curves into, I'm just going to go down here for this, U shape. So you can see it there, look. The board is cupping up like that into this U shape, cupping, shape of a cup, okay? You know, it's no coincidence that it's called cupping. So into a U shape. And if you remember back in class, when I had spoke about this, you will have seen, I hope at least you would have seen, that at the time I tried to highlight the annual rings. Okay, so there's my annual rings on the board. And kind of what sort of happens, and even though it's not the right way to put it, the annual rings kind of shorten. Okay, but what's happening is the shrinkage, it's curving away from the heart of the tree. The heart of the tree is here, okay? And it's curving away from there. So originally the board would have been dead straight, okay? It would have cut originally dead straight. It would have started to dry. And as it's drying, so the curves here would have been far more pronounced. And another way you might have heard me putting it or talking about it is that the curves try to straighten out. So effectively, these curves that are very, very curved, the annual rings, because that's what they are, annual rings. Am I going to be able to fit this in the page? I don't know, but I'm going to write it anyway. A-N-N-U-L rings. Okay, so they sort of try to straighten out. And what happens then is the board, and I'm going to exaggerate the curve on this now because I think the image that you're showing there doesn't really show just how much this actually happens. So what was a very curvy annual ring is now gone a lot straighter. Okay, so that's cupping then. Now, what causes it to distort in this manner? So this is going back to, well, what do I actually have to write for this answer? Because remember, this is information just to help you answer it. It's shrinkage. It's due to the board shrinking when it's drying. So shrinkage while the board is drying, while the timber is drying. We can control it so much, but we can't always control it. Okay, so shrinkage while the timber is drying. And basically curves away from the heart of the tree. So this is an extra bit. So it curves away from the heart of the tree. So that's that one. I think that's okay. Now, next one. So, and this time it's question 11. This is a fairly simple one though, or at least it's fast. They change, these questions change. Some are faster than others. The diagram on the left below shows a cross-section of a tree with a shake defect. Okay, shake is an important word. It was one of our keywords from that lesson. So a shake. And just to go through what a shake is, shakes generally happen when tension forces are released in the tree. Now, what do they mean by that? Every day, okay, if you look out the window, you'll see trees. Okay, that's fine. Or well, most of the time you'll see trees, depending where you are, obviously. But anyway, if you ever watch a tree, it tends to blow. So when the wind is blowing, the tree will move left and right, and it'll twist a little bit like my camera is shaking at this minute. I have a funny camera set up. It's essentially hanging off the ceiling in order for me to do these videos. But anyway, you might ignore that for a while. But anyway, the trees shake and they bend and they twist. And what actually happens is inside in the tree, tension forces build up, kind of, and they're kept into the tree. They can't get out. And they're there, and the tree sways forward, and basically the annual rings kind of move against each other, okay? And the grains, the cells move against each other, okay? And then what happens is the tree surgeon comes along to cut down the tree, or somebody else does. And as soon as that tree falls, and you've all seen trees falling, you've seen them in video, you've seen them on telly. When a tree hits the ground, if they showed it to you in slow motion, the tree would nearly bounce back up off the ground again because of the force. So as soon as that tree hits the ground, okay, it gets a bang. And when that bang happens, then those tension forces that are within the tree will often release. And then it leaves these gaps in the tree, these shakes, which are literally gaps, okay? You call them cracks. If you had a piece of timber with a shake in it, you wouldn't recognize it for a shake. You tell me, oh, there's a crack in my piece of timber. And oftentimes, if it's not at the end of the timber, it's not at the end grain, it's a shake. Now, they're not 100% certain that that's what causes them, but in general, that's what we think causes shakes. There may be other reasons, but that's the reason. You learn, you write, and you'll get full marks. Anyway, it says on the other two diagrams, then draw a cup shake or a harp shake. Sorry, a heart shake, not a harp shake. That's a whole other, I just made one up. Okay, let's go back again. Cup shake. Anyway, a cup shake is where the grain breaks along the annual rings. And it's like a little U. Oh, guess what it's like? Oh, a cup. There's a surprise. Okay, so in other words, these cells break apart from each other. You get a little U. Now, I've exaggerated the size there a little bit more, bigger and, you know, so on, but that's fine. And a heart shake isn't quite like a heart, but it's not too dissimilar either. It's like a V. So where they break kind of almost like a swallow. Okay, and actually I'm after drawing that, not great now, but that'll do me. A heart shake. Okay, so when does this happen? Well, I'm going to go down to the bottom here for a minute because I left a bit of space to add some notes. So, shakes occur when tension forces, that's a key word now, or a key phrase. They're the phrases you're going to need when you're answering your questions. So when tension forces which have built up in the tree are suddenly released, usually during felling. And again, another key word there, felling. We've had that one before. Felling means to cut down trees. Clear felling means to cut them all down. Okay, that means basically take down a whole forest full. So shake, so that's important, that little bit of information. Ideally, you've already written this in your notes somewhere, but just in case, okay, and no harm to write it again. So shakes occur Tension forces is a key word, important word. They've built up in the tree, they are released, and it's usually during felling. So there's my important words, my important terminology. Okay, so let's go back now to the question above that. So question above that, the diagram shows a wooden floor which has been affected by dry rot. Now, this is a different thing, dry rot. It says list 3 conditions necessary for dry rot to develop. So the first one would be the wood moisture content. So the moisture content. Now, let me just write it first before I explain it. So moisture content usually needs to be above 20%. So in other words, more of the timber, 20% of the timber is water. Okay, that's what they're saying. And above 20%, greater than 20% moisture content. Okay, now remember, moisture resides in the cells of a tree, and you never get a tree down to 0 moisture content, but you will get it in and around 12, 13, 14 for a house. Okay, maybe more, it depends. It depends the kind of heating, depends the time of year, there's a load of variables. But if the moisture content is above 20%, you have a condition for dry rot. It also needs a food source. So what they mean by that is the wood itself. So it can't have dry rot unless you've got wood. Okay, fairly simple one. And it also likes warm and still air, so no ventilation. So basically no air circulates. They are the conditions you need. Now I'll come back to that in the next set of questions, or the rest of the questions, because that becomes very important again. All right, moving on. I don't want to make the video too long either. Next that you had, or the next question, again, it was number 11, which is interesting. Okay, first one was, the diagram shows the 4 main life cycle, 4 main stages, sorry, in the life cycle of a wood boring beetle. The woodworm. The woodworm, huh? The dreaded woodworm. Now, so 4 stages in the life cycle of wood boring beetle. Complete the diagram by labelling the other 3 stages. Right, I'm just going to jump into labelling those stages and then I'll talk to you a little bit in a minute. So first of all, you have eggs. After the eggs, this little dude is called a larva. Okay. After the larva, when he's wrapped up, he's called a pupa. He's all kind of hibernating there. He's happy, he's content. And after the pupa, you have the adult beetle itself. Okay. So, and then the cycle continues because the adult lays the eggs, which turn into larvae, which turn into pupa. At this stage, they're eating in order to turn into pupa. At this stage, they're sleeping in order to turn into adults. So, and it says at what stage most damage caused to wood. Now, if you heard what I was saying there, or if you'd listened to what I was saying, or as I was saying it, you would have realised that it's when they are the larvae. Now, why? Because the larva is a worm, basically. Or a type of worm, right? Or think of it like a worm. And after it hatches from the egg, it eats through the wood. Okay, its main aim in life is to eat, and eat enough so that it can wrap itself up in a chrysalis and go to sleep and turn into an adult. A little bit like teenagers, actually. eat, go to sleep, become an adult. Anyway, that's a whole other area. Right, what happens anyway? So the larva is a worm, and after it hatches, from the egg, it eats through the wood. That's when it causes the damage. Now, you might say, but sure, what's wrong with that? Well, here's what's wrong with it. They leave behind little tunnels. And what's worse, T-H-R-O-U-G-H, what's worse is those tunnels can't be seen. You will only see the damage. In fact, you won't ever see the damage, but you'll only know that worm has been there. Hang on, eat through the wood. Okay, yeah, you'll only know the worm has been there by the fact that there's a hole on the surface of the wood. Okay, you'll hear people talking about woodworm. This is what they mean. This dude, the larva, He is starving, motoring around the place looking for wood to eat. And he's eating as he goes along. And as he eats, he's leaving behind a little tunnel because he's moving along through the timber. The only time you see the hole is when he's turned into an adult and he has escaped out of the timber. So as an adult, what happens is the pupa turns into an adult. The adult eats its way to the surface of the timber, escapes, as in flies away, and then comes back to lay eggs again in those holes. But as it's escaping, you just see basically an exit hole of where he's left the timber. But what is attached to that, or what is, I suppose, what follows from that, is a load of tunnels under the timber. And if you have too many tunnels, the timber will collapse and eventually break. Okay, so that's why we want to get rid of woodworm. All right, moving on. We're back to shakes here, so I'm not going to say too much about that because we already had it, but we have it already. The correct name for this guy is the star shake. Fairly easy enough one to remember. One cause, as we said already, tension forces released suddenly. Okay, next question again is just the order of the stages. So you see, I like giving questions all on the same topic because you can see from year to year the questions don't vary very much. So in terms of an exam, because I suppose we have to keep in mind here there's an exam at the end of the day, it is fairly easy to not predict, because that's not it at all, but you get used to answering the same questions. All right, so we have the egg, the larva, the pupa, and then it becomes an adult. And then the last one, number 7, because I think I've done enough explaining, because I'll certainly be explaining these a lot better when we come back to school, is name the timber defect shown. This time it's a cup shake, not to be confused with cupping. Now, that can be confusing. Cupping is when timber is cut, it's put to dry, you go to use it and you realize that it's slightly curved. That's cupping. Cup shake is as soon as they chop the tree down and they cut through the trunk and they see these gaps in it. If the gap or the break or the crack is that curvy shaped, it's called cup shake. It could just as easily have been this guy up here, the gaps in the timber. Okay, up there were star shaped. And what is the most likely cause? I don't think I need to write it again, but I will. Tension forces, no harm to write, because it's all about getting used to these. The more you write it, the more you read it, the more you understand it. Now, if you haven't answered this, and some of you haven't, or at least you haven't submitted them, or if you haven't submitted, they haven't uploaded, or whatever, we're all having trouble here. This is all new, all this stuff. It is important that you do print it at some point, even if it's only just to go through it and write in the answers I had, or to go through and try to do it on your own, and then to add any information to it, or to go back maybe to your notes. So anything that I mentioned there, you might want to go back and add it to the notes you already did. I don't know really, but look, that's what we're trying to do. But just bear in mind, at the moment, I'll be posting these kinds of videos fairly regularly. Sometimes they'll have work associated with them, sometimes they won't, but they won't be assignments. They are work to be done. Effectively, they are theory classes, the theory that you love so much. Anyway, what I will do with this, and oh, that's the wrong page. It's this one, sorry. Yeah, I had it done twice because I had it prepared. There we are. What I'm going to do with this is I will post a picture of it finished, so you will have the solution as well. Anyway, I understand that some of you can print stuff and some of you can't. If you can't print them out, do so, an answer on it, or ideally, or not ideally, but as some of you did, answer them in the copy. Okay, you can always write down question 6, answer, etc., etc. The big thing here, even when you're answering questions, is to write as much as you absolutely can. Then you're learning. Remember, when I'm asking you questions, yes, I'm assessing your learning, or when I'm giving you worksheets, but I'm also hoping to make you learn it as well, to learn it better. All right, look, this is a long video. We're up to 18, 19 minutes, so I will turn it off there now, and I will post it fairly shortly, and I will talk to you again. All right, and I can see, look, see this, like, this is how much my camera rocks, because I literally have my phone in a holder attached to the ceiling and it's hanging down. Yara, 'tis working. Sure, look, that's not too bad. All right, thank you. Bye bye.